Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyadravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti stithani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So Mark, do you remember where we are in the text?
We're in chapter 2, starting on verse 39.
Chapter 2, verse 39. We're almost done.
Should I start?
Yes.
Ete sevya pratnena chatvaro dvautrayodhava ekam va sarvayatnena sarva mutrija sanshrayet. These should be employed with perseverance, all the four, three or two of them, or else let one have recourse to one at least of the four with full effort, abandoning everything else.
So these are four practices which have been suggested. Can we back up and get the list?
They are tranquility, inquiry, contentment, and the fourth, association with virtuous people or sages.
Tranquility. What is samadhana? Is that what he says?
Shama.
Shama. Okay, Shama. Oh, and I love Shankara's definition, that peaceful state of mind when it rests in steady contemplation of the goal after having again and again detached itself from the chaos of the sense objects through a steady observation of their defects. What do we mean? All phenomena is transient. The joy that it gives is limited and finite. And the same object that brought me joy yesterday doesn't do it today. We have the phenomenon of diminishing returns. And ultimately, we start to see that it's the craving itself that's painful. The foolish person thinks I'm suffering because I don't have what I want. I don't have it the way I want. The yogi begins to see that it's the kama itself. What's its relationship with dukkha, suffering? They are the same thing. There I am with a want on again. I frequently would tell people when I was in the ashram, my nickname for my mind was Buddha. Fool. I won't go into the X-rated details, but you can imagine. There I am. It's so painful and so boring and so repetitive. For what? And then it starts up all over again. So we see the inherent defects of life as a bogey, someone who seeks bhoga, enjoyment in the world. Only insight in the end helps us let go of our attachment to the world. So Shama, what was the next one?
Inquiry.
Vivechana. This is the practice. Inquiry into the nature of the self. Inquiry into the nature of the world. How has it come about? What is my bondage? How do I get rid of it? This is inquiry. Next idea.
Contentment.
Santosha. Yes. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. That's what Dante has written over the gateway to hell. And it's so interesting. In Dante's Inferno, all the souls of the damned are lined up on the banks of the river Styx. They're not unhappy. They're gleeful. They can't wait to get into hell. What is Vasishtha saying here? We want to smash the idea that what's wrong with me is the wrong circumstances, the wrong partner, the wrong place to live, the wrong job, the wrong house, the wrong car, the wrong whatever. That's hope. If I just get this, then it'll be better. Here, this is just saying, smash that idea. Right where the trouble seems to be, there God is. Right here, right now. Peace and happiness do not come from changing circumstances. This is contentment. And the fourth one is sadhu sangha, I think, right?
Yeah.
Association with the wise. This is the root cause of liberation in the end. So if we have the great punya, great merit to meet a woman or a man of steady wisdom who can take us to the beyond, cut through the bullshit. If that's not readily available, just the company of fellow travelers. Why? Environment is stronger than will. It's very hard to do yoga if you are surrounded with people whose values are completely different. Then you begin to doubt, question, maybe the spiritual life isn't what it's cracked out to be. I'm just going to go for drugs, sex, and rock and roll like everybody else. So the invitation here is develop a sangha, a community, a fellowship. All right, And with this in mind, to the verse that we had tonight, practice all four if you can. If you can't, do three, two, just pick one of them. And that will deliver great. Any questions? Next verse.
एकस्मिन् वशगे यान्ति चत्वारोऽपि वशं यतः येषाम् एकतमासक्त्या मोक्षद्वारे प्रवेश्यते. Because even if one of them comes under control, all the four become obedient. By attachment to one of these, one is ushered into the gate of liberation.
Yes. So if we master even one of them, the other three come. They're all just various aspects of the same state of mind, the sattvic state of mind. My friend Dave Dutt and I were hanging out with this Mahatma in Jaipur in 2015. And Dave Dutt asked him, his name is Bhuvaneshwarananda, what was his sadhana? And he just sat every day at the feet of his guru, Pahari Baba, just tuning up, just drowning the mind in that empty. He just took complete refuge in sadhu sangha. All right, going on.
न रसायनपानेन न लक्ष्यालिङ्गनेन च तथा सुखम् अवाप्नोति शमेनान्तर्यथा मनः. Oh, sorry, I skipped one. यानि दुःखानि या तृष्णा दुःख सहाये दुराधयः तत्सर्वं शान्तचेतस्तु तमोर्कश्विव नश्यति. All difficulties, desire, and unbearable mental agony perish in peaceful hearts, just as darkness in rays of light.
So if you have peace, everything else fades away. Ultimately, the fruit of the spiritual life is peace, contentment, tranquility, has many different names. Heart rests in the infinite. Understand that the goal of the spiritual life is moksha. Moksha means freedom. Moksha means liberation. It's not some state to be gained after death. How can I find some peace of mind, some freedom? Right here. Right. When all our striving cease, all the struggle is gone. The Hebrew psalmist so beautifully says it. Oh, rest in the Lord. Wait patiently on him. The Lord is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I be afraid? So many ways to say the same quality of heart. But the fight's over, the struggle's gone. Paramashanti, supreme peace. It's interesting. After the resurrection, before the ascension of Jesus, he appeared to the disciples and he would greet them with the same greeting. Shalom Malachem. What's that mean?
Peace with you.
Peace be with you. Peace be with you. Next verse.
Na rasayana panena, na lakshmya linganena cha, tatha sukham avapnoti, shamenantaryatha manaha. Not by drinking the elixir of life, and not by the embrace of the goddess of wealth, does the mind attain happiness as it does by quietude within.
Yes. So all the various superlatives that we think are going to do it. I remember a conversation, some of you have heard me tell this story, true story. I had this student, this young man, and he had a job that it was a bit unethical and it paid him a lot of money. The boss was doing cocaine with the chickies in his office and all that sort of stuff. And he kind of liked being out on the yacht where they were doing lines and stuff like that. And he was a yogi. And he knew this was against the Dharma of how he wanted to live his life. He said, I said, well, why don't you quit? You've got a lot of skills. You can find another job. And he says, oh, I just want to wait till I'm financially secure. And I said, yeah, dude, you own 5 houses. When are you going to be secure? And what we talked about is no amount of zeros after your income will remove the fear of financial insecurity. No amount of zeros will do that. Only Shraddha. What's Shraddha? Faith. And this is the great power of being a sannyasi. There's a wonderful story about Swami Tapovanam wandering in the Himalayas, and he was set upon by a bunch of robbers. Have any of you read that story?
I think
it's in Wandering in the Himalayas. Mm-hmm. What happened when the robbers set upon him?
We find that he has nothing on him. And because of that, they realize, I think he said something like he doesn't have anything and he's actually very hungry. So the robbers ended up feeding him.
Yeah, he asked them for food. So they sat down around the fire and they had community. Yeah. Yeah. So there's no virtue in wealth. There's no virtue in poverty either. No one thinks about money more than the impoverished. What's the slogan? To a starving person, God is bread. See, it's apples and oranges. Only deep spiritual experience will free us from fear. But we have to understand that. Otherwise, we keep looking for stuff. We keep trying to fix my discontent, my fear, my sense of lack. Oh, if only I had a husband. If only I had a wife. If only I had children. If only I got rid of the husband. If only I got rid of the wife. If only someone would take my horrible kids. You know, nothing else will do it other than Atma-Vidya. It's deep experience of the self. And do if you will. Next verse.
Tapasvishu bahutnyeshu rajakeshu nripeshu cha balavastu gunan yeshu shamavane rajate. It is only the one endowed with tranquility that shines among ascetics, people possessed of great knowledge, men who do sacrifices, kings, the strong, and those rich in virtues.
So you can have the outer trappings of wealth, and yet you won't have this inner glow. You can be a scholar. It's interesting. I was working with a young man who is a Buddhist, basically, his training, and he was studying at this Tibetan institute up, and I think it's in Portland. It's somehow associated with Naropa Institute. And he was studying with this Lama who was supposed to be very important. But it was very unrewarding. The guy was not much of a happy camper. You would forget him all the time, like you couldn't remember the guy's name. And he wasn't, he did not seem to have what we call the taste. And it was a very unrewarding experience. He came away from it, not with a whole lot of peace. And this Lama was probably a great scholar, but didn't seem to have much tranquility or joy.
I can't remember which text it in, but one of them where it talks about the qualities you want to look for in a teacher is having heart, right? No, it's one of the ones we studied. You know,
Viveka Chudamani, Ocean of Compassion.
right. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Daya Sindhu,
Thank you.
Daya Sindhu, ocean. But, you know, not to get into politics, but you look at a photo of our next president,
Mhm.
then look up there at Ramana Maharshi. You tell me who has what you want. Our next president has gold toilets. Ramana Maharshi lived in a cave and ran around in a diaper. But he had the world. He had everything. Because he had peace.
I don't remember where I read this story of this rich French businessman who was not very religious or not very spiritual, but apparently he saw a picture of Ramana Maharishi and he just decided to put it in his house. But he continued to do his thing. But he said, I just don't know why, but I just wanted this to be my living room or something like that.
Now, it's a cheesy movie, but it's a beautiful scene. If you ever watch the movie Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, which is the story of St. Francis of Assisi, there's a scene where he's there at the palace of the Pope. The Pope is way up high, and there's these big, huge steps that he comes down. I have no idea where that palace was. Is that part of the Avignon papacy?
I have no idea.
Anyway,
That part was kind of made up.
but it's certainly pre St. Peter's Basilica.
Yes.
Anyway, so there's simple Francis. He wants to live very simply, and the Pope and all this pomp and glory is just humble. In the end, he gets down and kisses Francis's feet. I don't know if historically that happened, but it was a nice touch.
Mm-hmm. A beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Including all the cheesiness of it. It's 1970s hippie Francis.
Oh, wow.
Donovan did the singing.
Oh, wow.
So if you are a yogi, even before knowledge dawns on the mind, you will find that you will carry something different into the world than you did before. Now, Sound and Puneet just went to a wedding, one of their old-timey friends. How long had you known these people?
Since we were 18, or yeah, 18 years old, so half my life.
So how many years is that? You're what, 25 now?
Yes, I'm 37.
So 20 years almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have they seen a change in you too?
I think so.
I know the last time you were there when your mother passed, people certainly did.
Mhm.
Or Wendy, do you come in contact with people who you used to know from the restaurant
Yeah.
circuits?
Mhm.
Have they seen a change in you?
They say I look very happy. Very. I am.
But who we are speaks much louder than anything we can say. You don't have to say a word about your spiritual practice. But if you're at peace, people can feel it. Next verse.
विचारात् तीक्ष्णतामेत्य धी पश्यति परं पदं दीर्घ संसारयोगस्य विचारो हि महौषधम्. By inquiry or reflection, the intellect, having become sharp, perceives the supreme state. Indeed, inquiry or reflection is the great medicine for the prolonged disease of worldly existence.
Yes.
There's a note here. Should I read that?
You may.
The inquiry or investigation referred to here does not relate to the objective world and its phenomena, as the following verses will show. It is the radical reversal of human consciousness, leading to the discovery of the source of one's being.
Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitye. Oh God. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitye. Yeti Rupa Vinishchayaha. Soyam Nitya Nityavastu. Viveka Samudharitaha. One of my favorite verses from Viveka Chudamani. Brahman alone is real. Brahma Satyam. The phenomenal world is illusory, is a lie. Mithya. This firm conviction in the intellect is considered discrimination between the eternal and the non-eternal, the real and the So we inquire into three questions in this text. The first, go home. Who am I? The body, I'm not the prana, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm not the ego sense, not the darkness of deep sleep. Who am I? One of my favorite terms comes from this text, Chid Akasha, and the space of pure awareness. Then we inquire into this world. What is this world? How has it come about? Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. This world is nothing but consciousness. It's nothing but Brahma. How did the names and forms come about? Sankalpena, by means of imagination. These are deep subjects we will go into. This is the proper inquiry. Next verse.
Koham kasya cha sansara ityapadhyati dhimata chintaniya prayatnena sa pratikaram. Who am I? Who is this worldly existence? Whose is this worldly existence? Thus should be pondered over by the wise with perseverance, even in adversity.
Yes. So, I like the corollary to who am I? Who cares? Who am I? Aham Brahmasmi. I'm the witnessing consciousness. Who cares? Sure ain't the self. It's always my stupid mind. And then we have what's called anyonya adhyasa, a mutual superimposition. We've talked a bit about how I superimpose upon the self the qualities of the not self. But what I do is I externalize my self nature into the phenomenal world, sat. Wendy exists over there, separate from me. Chit, conscious. Mike is a conscious being separate from me. Ananda. Sound I like. I think the ananda is out. Superimpose upon the self the qualities of the not self. Superimpose upon the not self qualities of myself. That's the essence of my ignorance. So we inquire not only into the nature of the self, but into this world. Oh, need to be done. Any questions about this?
So when we superimpose out there, our true nature, you're saying what we're thinking that happiness lies out there.
Yes.
Got it. The husband, the wife, the house, yada, yada.
And then I think the things out there are real. Yeah. Oh, that's something to be afraid of because it's real. Oh, my 401k took a dive because I think it's real. It upsets me. She said something mean to me because I think she's real. What she said is real. You see that?
Yeah. Wow.
Did you have a comment?
I was going to say, so it's the habit pattern of the mind to do that.
Yes.
And that has to be seen through as a process which is not, like, I guess, creates this suffering and then creates this illusion.
You got it. Exactly. So the sat, I think the world is concrete and separate from me. So, for example, you can go to a movie And it can be, a thriller with car crashes and things like that, and the bad guys get shot. It can be a romance. Oh, it's so sad. And you leave the movie, you've had all these emotions, but you are not suffering when you leave the theater. Why?
You know it's not real.
Say that
Because
again.
you know it's not real.
Say that again.
Because you know it's not real.
Yes.
Mm.
Scene. And then when I look into Mike's eyes, his body seems different than my body. His feelings are different than my feelings. His thoughts are different than my thoughts. But out of his eyes is peeping a conscious being whose nature is Chidakar. And when I look behind my eyes, there's a conscious being that's Chidakar. The self in me is not like the self in you. The self in me is the self in you. One being keeping through all these various equivalents. That one being is the only thing that's life. It's the only sentience. There is no otherness. Sarvam Kalvinam Brahma. It's all Brahman. Brahman's not an it. Brahman's a who. Being itself. It's a wonderful exercise as you move through your day. Look into people's eyes. Drop your mind. Relate to who they really are. Watch the world just fall away for both of you. Next verse.
संतुष्ट परमभ्येति विश्रामं सुखलक्षणम् सन्तोषामृतपानेन यशान्त तृप्तिमागतः. The contented one approaches the supreme beatitude, which is of the nature of tranquility and happiness. Whoever is calm by drinking the nectar of contentment has reached satisfaction.
Yes. So again, letting go of this notion that it's going to be better with the change of circumstances. A very valuable exercise is whatever's going on. What if it's going to be just like this for the rest of eternity? Even if you've got a headache or your back hurts, can you stop fighting? Surrender. This, in fact, is one of the great values of a long meditation retreat. whatever's going on, eventually you move into acceptance. And you will also see its temporary nature. Any thoughts on Santosha? Surrender, acceptance, willingness, as many names. Simple experience so many of us have had. You're on the freeway, you need to get someplace by, let's say, 4 o'clock, and traffic backs up. And you want to push the traffic with your heart by gripping the steering wheel. I'm gonna be late. Anybody ever had that experience? And at some point, I'll get there when I get there. And you just drop them. Text your friend, traffic, ETA, 4:35. And you accept that you're in traffic. Who's done that? Yeah. That's Santosha. Not the guy who drives over onto the shoulder of the road and then goes down the wrong way of the on-ramp or something. Doesn't mean we don't act, but act with a cool heart. Shitala Manasaha. Any questions, thoughts on this? Next one. Do they have freeways in Australia?
Yep, they do.
You don't ride around on your wallabies?
No, and we have road rage too. So
Oh.
Aprapta vancha mutsrijya samprapte samatam gataha tadrishta kheda akhedo ya santushta sa ihochyate. He is called a contented man here who does not feel dejection or its opposite, having abandoned the wish not obtained and remaining equable in that acquired.
Yeah. Going back to movies, one of my favorite movies, many of you know it, is Gandhi. And there's a scene where the British general says, "Arrest Mr. Gandhi." They lock him up. And then next scene, someone comes to visit him, and there he is in his cell, just as contented as he could be. Books, spinning his homespun cloth. It infuriated the Brits because they could not imprison him. They could put his body in a jail cell, but they could not rob him of his santosha, because Gandhiji was content wherever he was. Many of you have heard me tell stories like this about Swamiji. In the old-timey days, we used to hold the various jnana yajnas, the camps, on university campuses in the summer because they were largely empty. And usually there would be part of the janitorial staff that would open up a classroom at 6:30 in the morning for group meditation. And so you had to be there at 6:30 or they would close the door and you couldn't come in. He was really the martinet when it came to time. And there was this one yunya. And so we're all standing outside the room and it's not opened up. You know, normally they open it up at like 6:15, something like that, 6:20. 6:30 comes, door's locked. Somebody goes, and he just sits down there on the sidewalk. We all sit down. We have our meditation. Yes, he liked things to be on time. And when they weren't working out, no agitation. Just meditated right where we were. This is the kind of attitude that's useful for a yogi. So, practically speaking, Wendy, as a restaurateur, I suspect that there was a time that if part of the wait staff or the cooking staff didn't show up for a shift, how would you feel about that?
I'd freak out and
Yeah.
panic.
And after 25 years?
Made no difference. I still panicked. Because I lived in constant fear.
Oh.
But not anymore.
Ideally, but what would happen? You'd find
You'd
some way to
figure it
solve
out.
the
Yeah,
problem.
you'd figure it out. We would, yeah. But there was a lot of suffering.
Unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. Completely, yeah.
And that doesn't mean, for example, we don't have compassion for the suffering of others. So, Mike, you know, you're dealing with housing people who are in great distress.
Mhm.
I suspect things happen where the needs of your clients, because of bureaucracies or funding or stuff, are not getting met.
Yes.
Do you get upset about it?
Occasionally so.
Well, let me give you a maxim for all of us. Worry is not a tool. Chintya is not a problem-solving strategy. Be solution-oriented. Look for a solution. So santosha doesn't mean that we don't look for solutions when things are going off the rails. It's just that getting upset only makes things worse. Now, you all know my friend Ron, who works for the FAA.
Mhm.
One of the things that's allowed him to advance, he's a pretty high-level manager. He's a no drama guy. Largely as a fruit of his yoga. He just gets things done. He doesn't freak out. He's very solution oriented, take care of business. Very good at it.
And probably much better at it because he doesn't freak out.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And other people who freak out are not as effective, and then they become a burden for other people. They got to be managed. So these qualities not only are conducive to moksha, liberation, but they're useful practices in the workplace. I'm going to have to hear all about things in that after the class. All right, next one.
नाभिवाञ्छ्य सम्प्राप्तं प्राप्तं भुङ्क्ते यथाक्रमं यस्तु सौम्य समाचार सन्तुष्ट इति कथ्यते. He is called a contented person who is of gentle and proper conduct, does not long for what has not been acquired, and enjoys what has arrived in due order.
Yes. So, don't be a person who's out there always trying to get what he or she wants. See if you can be a person who wants what they already have, who's content and enjoys what's here. Some people are constantly discontent. Then you become a burden not only to yourself, but other people. And notice he says they have proper conduct. This is not an invitation to irresponsibility. Suit up, show up for life, do your duty with content. Ideally, we've talked about this before in Gita class, you have a right to work at what you love. But if you're not in a place where you're working at what you love right now, the first step is endeavor to love where you're working right now. Quit fighting, quit resisting. Make peace. Do a good job. Then look for another job. Be content. All that you need is right here. Next verse.
Sarvatra opakarotiha sadhu sadhu samagamaha apat sampada va bhati vidvajjana samagame. Association with virtuous persons or sages is good, and it helps here at all times. In the association of wise men, calamity appears like an advantage or blessing.
Oh, this is great. So, what can a sadhu do for us? It's interesting. In Shankara's Viveka Chudamani, you know, there's that very famous section about the qualifications of a fit student. Very short. It's like a shloka or two about the qualifications of a fit teacher. And as Shankara is fond to do, he makes a list. Does anybody remember what's first on the list? Remember, first on the list is usually what he thinks is most important.
Well versed in the scripture.
Shrotriya. Yes. There are many Mahatmas who may have had spontaneous realizations when they're very young, but who themselves do not wield valid means of knowledge. What is a valid means of knowledge? It can take an idiot like you and me and take us to the beyond. Now, Advaita Vedanta is not the only valid means of knowledge. Surely is a good one. Idiot in, Johnny out. Now, Shankara will say, without knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is futile. With knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is again futile. Then why do we focus on being Shrotriyam? They are a setu, they are a bridge. They become the means by which a woman of knowledge can transmit to a ripe suit. Another advantage of hanging with a sadhu if they themselves are a full knower of the Supreme and have retired into the Supreme, it's kind of like when you put a pot of water in the sink, turn on the faucet, and then the water fills up the pot. If you don't take it out from underneath the faucet, after a while, what happens?
It overflows.
It overflows. So for the woman or man of knowledge, as they practice this Atmanamana, this reveling in the sound, the term that Vidyaranya uses on Monday nights, Brahmananda Rasa Swad, tasting of the juice of the bliss of Brahman. In time, deep, deep bliss starts to overflow. When you and I are in the presence of a Mahat, we get their borrowed glory. They can show us the mind absorbed in the sound. Deep, deep. I can remember again in 2015 when I was in Jaipur with this dude, Bhuvaneshwaran. One of the customs they had in this ashram, when people would come, they'd give you a little paper bowl of fruit, prasad. And I'm an old man and I was wearing dhoti and kurta, so I'd show up. And he treated me with extra respect. It was very kind of him. So I got a bigger bowl of fruit. So one day I'm there, the helpers bring up a little bowl of fruit. I don't say a word. I could give you shit. I'm sitting there and eating fruit. Go to him. Oh, no. He's supposed to get the big one. I said, no. Go down. I'm too fat anyway. This is fine. I said, anyway, you've given us Maunam Prasad, the gift of your silence. Shunya Prasad. Swallowed everybody's mind. And this can inspire us. It shows us what a human being is capable of. And around a Mahatma, here Vasishtha says, even our hardships in life become a blessing. How? Why? You've heard me share this axiom. It's a spiritual axiom that if I'm disturbed, no matter the cause, I'm the one with the klesha. I'm the one with the defilement, the affliction. Meaning, I have an attachment. I have an identification. That's axiomatic. It's never, ever, ever out there. Sometimes, either deliberately or just as he or she moves through life, the guru may poke at us. The person is, oh, terrible guru. Remember one woman said, Swamiji's a devil. He looks like Satan to me. I guess where Satan was. Karma. But the guru continues to remind us that the heart moves. I'm the one with the reaction. Then everything in life becomes useful. It becomes an opportunity for practice. What's the practice? Let go, let go, let go. Vairagya. We did talk about viveka. Vairagya, that desire to give up attachment to all experiences gained through the senses and all forms of self, starting from the body up to and including the form of Brahma, the Creator. Meaning, I think I'm important or enlightened. No personal sense of self is real. Stop. Life, if we've got an attachment or identification, poke, poke, poke. Now, there are 3 relationships that are conducive to spiritual growth. First, of course, the relationship with the guru. The second is a monastic community. And the third is the committed love relationship, like a marriage. The power of all 3 relationships, listen carefully, is in the vow. And the vow is, I'm not going away. Why? You have a married couple here. If you have any doubt about what your character defects are, does not your spouse let you know? Is that not true? Yes?
Frequently, yes.
Mike, you've been a monk. It's just like marrying 20 people, isn't it?
Or more, depending.
And you don't even know them before you get there. And what do many of us do? This isn't working out. It's the wrong person, the wrong community, the wrong environment. Meaning, when my ego gets triggered, I run. It's the wrong guru. Why? Because I do not really internalize this truth. Presence of truth. The triggers are opportunities for sign. Always.
Sometimes I just hate that. When it's so obvious, it's like, oh,
Well, the corollary is you can run,
I know.
but you can't hide.
I know. I know.
It will chase you.
Partly joking.
It will chase you. And I like to tell people, oh, who's had trouble with their boss at work? Tell me this is the first time you've had this problem.
Or your employees, if you're
Or
the boss.
employees,
Yeah.
or your spouse, or your landlord.
Or your mother. Or
You know,
yourself.
it's the
Yeah.
same relationship over and over again, only the names and faces change. Yeah. Because it's not out there. It's never out there. And it will keep showing up because it's guru
Life is the guru, right?
until you let go. All right, one more.
Yasnata शीतसितया साधु संगम संगया किम तस्य दाने किम तीर्थै किम तपोभि किम अध्वरैः. For one who has been bathed by the cool moonlight and the holy waters of the Ganga in the form of association with the virtuous, what is the use of charities, holy places, austerities, and religious sacrifices?
That incredible punya to meet a woman or a man of knowledge. And again, what Shankara says about the teacher, who's an intimate friend of those who have surrendered to them. Who's your guru? Oh, Shirdi Sai Baba. Well, he's been dead 100 years. Nobody talks to me in my mind. That's not the same. It's not the same. Even with Swamiji, I would go to one of Swamiji's talks in India, and there'd be 60,000 people there. Wow. Yeah, he was this little tiny orange dot, a block away, talking through a sound system.
60,000?
Yeah. Everything in India is awesome.
Oh my God.
Swamiji Rock Festival.
Yeah. But the point I'm getting at is that's not a personal relationship. We were so lucky here in the States because he would come to Krishnalaya, and there may be 200-300 people at a camp. But in the afternoons, he'd come out and sit on the lawn, and there were maybe 20 of us. Or we'd go into the big house, and he would watch tennis, so he wouldn't have to talk with people. And there'd be 10 of us maybe just there tuning up. He was incredibly observant. But life itself does a great job. Swamiji always used to say the external guru is a temporary psychological device. Yes, there was this intense relationship that at least I would get once a year or once every other year, 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks. Then he's gone. I wouldn't see him for another year. So we had to take it and get rooted in it ourselves. How much more in this chapter?
2 more.
Okay, I think we can finish it.
Vichinna granthaya tajya sadhava sarva sammataha sarvopayena sansevya te hyupaya bhavam buddhao. Those sages, knowers of the truth, in whom the knots of ignorance have been broken, and who are honored by all, should be worshipped by all means. They are the remedies for the ills of the ocean of worldly existence.
And in our culture in India, yes, there is that tradition of worshiping the guru as a murti, as a stand-in for God himself. But actually, that can get in the way. You don't receive much teaching with your face on the ground at the feet of the guru, with all this romanticism going on in your mind. Swamiji wanted us to meet him eye to eye. That personal relationship. Next one.
Chatvara ete vimala upaya bhava bedane yaira bhyastasta uttirna Mohavari Bhavarnavat. These are the four stainless means for passing through this worldly existence. They by whom these are practiced cross over the ocean of worldly existence filled with waters of delusion.
So the practice that's implied, go back, take a look at this list. Pick one of them. Okay, that's the one I'm going to practice today. I'll practice it for a week or two. Pick another one. I wouldn't try to do all four all at once. You can try that. But they're a nice paradigm for Vedantic practice. Any thoughts on these? Okay, we'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.